to whom it may concern. I write to you on the behalf of not only myself, but those who fail to realize that their voice is powerful enough to enact change when needed. Before I get into the reasons behind my intent of writing this letter, I want to thank Irvine Unified School District for the opportunities it has given me. Most importantly, I want to acknowledge my appreciation for a district that has given me a foundation to thrive upon. In noting the strengths of our school district, I am a firm believer in also bringing attention towards pressing issues which affect students on a daily basis. However, too often I have been silenced for doing so, and this is highly toxic to student life. So, today, I am asking you to just listen for a moment.
My name is Avi Rivera. I am 17 years old and I go to Irvine High School.
I'm Genevieve. I'm 16 and I go to Irvine High School. My name's Aruj. I'm 15 and I go to Irvine High School.
I'm Grace Smith. I'm 17 and I go to Irvine High.
My name is Delilah Kibram. I'm 17 years old and I go to Irvine High School.
My name is Nika Haji. I'm 50 years old and I go to Irvine High School.
My name is Razine. I am 17 years old and I go to Irvine High School.
I'm Sarah. I'm 16 and I go to Irvine High School.
My name is Niusha, Hajikhodaverdikhan. I'm 17 years old and I go to Irvine High School.
My name is Stephen Odom. I've been teaching high school English for 20 years. I have taught all levels. I try to model for my students that education is about making good human beings. It's important for us to live in a society and create a culture that is defined by dignity and respect. And knowledge is not necessarily an end in itself either. It's a means to the end of understanding and compassion and wisdom.
I stand for equality for religion.
Women's rights, students' rights, basically anyone that's being oppressed. I believe that everyone should be equal.
If there is one particular thing, it would be non-compliance.
Just equality. I believe everybody should have equal opportunities no matter who they are, where they come from, what they believe in.
I stand for equality. I stand for freedom. I stand for knowledge. I stand for women.
I stand for fighting for what you believe in.
I really believe in happiness.
I stand for a lot of different causes, but one that I'm really focusing on recently is high school student rights.
The education system in general is silencing a lot of, especially history, because it doesn't favor America, or it doesn't favor the thoughts that they want us to, believe in. So yeah, we're definitely silent.
My school, along with I'm sure many other schools, always try to silence revolutionary voices, always try to silence new ideas and conflicts that people begin to notice within their system. And there's so many examples of me experiencing this. Teachers have told me, oh, it's my classrooms, my rules, or you don't get to tell me how to run my classroom, or why do you think you own the school?
You want to ask a question that's a little out there, but then the teacher's like, oh, I can't answer that. Or don't ask that, and stuff like that. It's okay. So we're basically we're being educated, we're young minds, but then again, we're still turned down. And that makes no sense to me.
What you say, it's taken really lightly. Imagine telling someone something and it goes into one ear and out the other.
I don't think they encourage students to disagree. And I think students should be encouraged to disagree. This is not the first school where students have committed suicide because of pressure.
Not every teacher allows you to talk about how you think. Ever since we were young, we were taught to write essays this one way. Don't use first person. Even Dr. Odom talks about this. He hates the fact that essays are not written in first person, because an essay by definition is first person. You're writing about your opinion. But they encourage you to be impersonal. And they encourage you to not think about what everything means to you, but try to meet their standards, so they silence the voices of people.
Yeah, they do silence a lot. I feel like they focus on one perspective rather than one another, and it's they just want one view, one point. They don't really listen to the other side of the story.
There's so many different ways they can stop you and silence you. and they try so hard to do that. But honestly, none of this is anything new. Fred Hampton once said, you can kill a revolutionary, but you cannot kill a revolution. And I guess in this instance, it would be, you can silence a revolutionary, but you cannot silence a revolution. So I guess you can try to expel me or suspend me or silence me and people like me in a lot of different ways. But just know that my ideas and my thoughts, they exist in the hearts and souls of every single student who is suffering from this toxic system.
The toxic part is that in revolutions all over this world, the majority of the people who are activists are college students, are people who are currently being educated. We are the next generation. You constantly try to calm us down. It does not make matters better. You should allow us to do that, because when the next generation comes, we will be liberated.
So what's toxic is the squelching of individuality and individual voice. And when that's squelched, that's going to lead a person to feel hopeless and rejected and depressed. This is a danger that exists in every organization, and that is the subtle or the explicit creation of a hierarchy. And wherever there's authority, regardless of what form that authority takes, there's a danger for conforming to the authority, which is a way of squelching individuality. I can believe that I'm in a democratic organization that respects my voice, but in reality, it's not that way. But I've been led to think it's that way.
I think it is so toxic. Like I said, like we're told to think differently and like think our own thoughts basically, but then again, we're like turned down to even think that way.
It's creating compliant minds. It's creating people that are just jumping through hoops, meeting requirements because they feel like a certain goal must be reached. Either from pressure of their parents or pressure from their peers or the environment. They feel like to reach a goal, they have to do ABC. They have to do ABC, not because they want to. They don't think about whether they want to, whether they need to. They just do it.
It just kind of like shuts you up, and it makes it seem like what you say like holds no weight to it because you're a teenager.
People aren't getting both sides of what's happening. They're learning, like, or say, white privilege doesn't exist. It does exist. It's something that's happened all throughout history. It's still happening. But of course, in the textbooks, they won't talk about that. They'll talk about how great America is, but they won't talk about what America did wrong, what Americans did wrong, or not every American, because not everybody is doing something wrong. They're actually standing for the opposite side, but they won't teach you that. They'll just kind of skim over it and say, all right, we kind of did something bad, and then they'll leave. And that's it.
Humanities classes are very systematic. I feel like humanities classes should serve as a medium to provoke thinking, not as a medium to memorize facts, dates, do systematic writing, but a medium to think. But what AP is doing right now is to cram information, read this, write this. That's not what humanities is about. It's not read this, write this. It's after you read this, write this, what do you think of it? How does this relate to a larger context? How does this relate to the time period? They have to realize, why is this important? So I would probably try to let the teachers design their curriculum in a way that provokes students' thoughts.
I would definitely try to change like curriculum. The fact that we have like just one path for everyone is ridiculous.
I think teachers and admin should be more open about people saying new and different things.
They should listen.
I think we should take them seriously because that's been like the bigger issue with students expressing themselves.
Expressing yourself also builds up your self-esteem and your confidence. So if you don't have people that have that much confidence or low self-esteem, then the world could just keep like crumbling.
First response should be gratitude, because I think students see on a daily basis what teachers and administrators either cannot see or do not see. I think teachers and administrators should be depending on students to speak their truth, because it would increase a perspective on what benefits the whole. And administrators and teachers are supposed to be, whether they are or not, they're supposed to be communicators of what benefits the whole. They're supposed to be supporting what benefits the whole, not just a select few. And that includes the student making the lowest grade to the student making the highest grade to everything in between. And we have to listen to students, especially those on the lower end. We hear plenty from those on the higher end because we give them opportunity to speak. But we don't give people on the lower end of the grade scale sufficient opportunity to speak, and it has negative consequences, sometimes dangerous consequences.
If you have an F or if you have a really low GPA, you can even try out for student government or even run for a position for student government. And essentially what you're doing by doing this is you're silencing and you're providing no form of representation for students who are not doing well in the system. You're isolating them, you're alienating them, you're ignoring them. And all that they are left with now are the labels that the other students put on them, their parents put on them, the admins put on them, their teachers put on them. And usually most of these labels are really negative. And in sociology, we have this theory called the labeling theory, and it basically states that people usually become what they are labeled. So now we have a bunch of kids who are constantly labeled as all these negative things, and yet we expect them to get better. We expect to stop seeing them in detention, stop seeing them in Saturday schools, stop seeing them constantly getting in trouble. But we never wonder, is it them or is it the system?
I believe that if every student knew and was convinced that he or she had a voice and could be congratulated and celebrated for expressing that voice, there would be no issue with tardies. There would be no issues with attendance. There would be no issues with grades. Because in my 20 years of experience, it's become patently obvious to me that students don't perform because something is going on with the system.
And the fact that they are constantly labeled as these negative things, the fact that they are not represented, the fact that they're ignored, they're alienated, they're isolated. So how can we expect these students to get better when no one has ever told them that they can be amazing, that they can change the world, that they can represent the rest of the students who are like them? They have never had that opportunity, so how can we expect them to get better?
The students are the one experiencing the change, so without talking to the students, listening to the students, how do you know how the system is working? And what the students think of the system is the most authentic thing. It's just not viable to let a group of people who have not been in the education system for years decide what the education system should look like. The students are experiencing the system. What if they don't like it? What if the system is doing a damage to them that will damage their ability to create and innovate in the future and damage their minds as independent people?
The childish imagination that still exists within the teenagers at my school and the wisdom and education that teachers and admins have can lead to great change to happen. Give us an opportunity to express ourselves, to let us speak, to stop silencing us. So maybe then great things can happen and we can have a better system.
If people are saying they want something to change, like, they're being serious about it.
We're constantly told, shut up, you cannot say things like that, or you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. You can't spark or trigger the knowledge or the geniusness in other people.
It will encourage creativity, and creativity will lead to new ideas that will solve the issues that we have in our society today. So essentially, the future is in your hands and it's in our hands, and we need to work together to make sure that the future is better than our society today.
They're conditioned to just comply, endlessly comply. What are they going to do out in the real world? Comply, endlessly comply, jump hoops, meet requirements, get things. And at the end, it's boring.
There are so many brilliant minds. There's so many people out there that actually care about the freaking world, just like you and your sister and me and Allie and all these people that are getting together to actually do stuff like this. So if you really want people to change the world, then you need to let them change the world.
I'm grateful that you're doing this and that you're championing the individual voices of students and hopefully creating a revolution that transcends rebellion. Rebellion is the first step toward meaningful revolution. So I hope if this is rebellion, that it turns into meaningful, lasting change of revolution. And it will be revolutionary for students to have voice regardless of their grade point average, regardless of their community service, regardless of their family status in the community. It'll be revolutionary if every student knows that he or she has a voice. I long to see that kind of system happen.
I share these concerns with you not because they are unique, but because they are widespread and dysfunctional to the educational opportunities of students. Thank you for listening, as that is the first step towards evolutionary change.
The city is burning, we can shake it to the ground.